We had a really positive experience coming into Haneda Airport. We had been told ahead of time that Japan in general was very good at getting your wheelchair to the door in a timely manner, and it's probably the best experience we've ever had. We were also met by a member of the ground team there who escorted us through the whole airport experience. Very useful in this instance due to the language barrier. We used public transport for our whole time in Japan. We had a very positive experience with it. Every single station we went to had an elevator, and not once was it out of order. I always use my free will when I travel to big cities. It meant that I could get on and off every train by myself. You can request assistance at every station. Every single station had a wider barrier where you would pay for your trains. And if you're ever trying to find the wider barrier, follow the tactile paving. We went to not only Tokyo, but Kyoto and Osaka as well. And even whilst in Kyoto and Osaka, we went to some places that were a little bit more remote from the main city. And even there, the stations were accessible. We used the Shinkansen, or as it's generally known, the bullet trains. We used it 3 times, from Tokyo to Osaka, Osaka to Kyoto, and then Kyoto back to Tokyo. We had a very positive experience with it. I was able to roll on from the platform to the train and straight into the place that I had booked. You do have to reserve in advance, generally for using a wheelchair or if you're travelling with cases, things like that. I would say it is quite confusing doing the bookings. The website is very tricky for international bookers using international credit cards. You can only book the reserved spaces a month out, and so we did it exactly a month out for each train, and there wasn't always availability. It also isn't clear on the website because you have to book for if you're using a wheelchair space, or you can also use one where you can transfer. But it doesn't state what the situation would be if you had suitcases and you also needed the wheelchair positions. So in our case, we booked a wheelchair position for me, and then my parents were booked into the oversized baggage section of the train. Luckily, we were able to get it for all of our trains. They were only 1 carriage away from me, so they could walk through the carriage to me if I needed assistance. We only booked our trip 3 months out before going, and we made sure that all the hotels we looked at had elevators to the rooms, so we knew that we would have step-free access from the front door to our room. But because I can get around independently within the room, I didn't find it necessary to book a wheelchair accessible room. If that is a necessity, I would say book well in advance. Whilst I could get around the rooms, it was very tight, and it was more about having a space to leave my wheelchair whilst moving around the room that we found most difficult. So the reason we came in July was due to my birthday. I had been warned in advance that it's going to be hot. It was very humid. It was saying that it was mid 30 degrees Celsius, but feels like in the 40s. If you have conditions that are exacerbated or have difficulties due to the heat, it's definitely something worth considering of coming at a different time of year. I forgot to film them, but the public toilets were brilliant. Most of them were operated by electronic buttons to open and close doors. Also, we found that in the more populated areas, every single toilet had an adult changing table. They also had a sink if you needed to clean out anything like a colostomy bag. And if you had a child with you, there was these very handy chairs that you could place the children in whilst you used the facilities.